This is a video devoted solely to nightclubs and why, in my opinion, all men should avoid them. After a minute or two, I am confident you will agree with me. I believe the entire thing is rigged, and no man, no matter where they live or what they do, should ever participate in it. I haven't been to a nightclub in the last 5 years because they are playing ridiculous. There's this long line outside a nightclub that you have to wait in, and most of the time you get into the club and it's empty. The promoter's and owner's intention is to create the illusion of scarcity and the impression that the club is packed with people having a good time. Most of these clubs will have stories about hot girls inside and long lines to get in. People waste their entire weekends looking for action only to discover that the club inside is simply overwhelming. I was in Toronto, Canada, and I have to tell you, it was made in the club district, where I saw thousands of girls freezing in the cold. They do anything for that validation, standing there in those mini skirts and high heels in the dead of winter. There is a lot of research that shows men perceive women wearing high heels differently. It accentuates their legs, making them appear thinner and more attractive, and thus alters a man's behavior toward her. As a result, high heels are the preferred footwear in most club settings. There was a Huffington Post article on this topic, and a French study found that high heels help women get what they want more effectively. This is clear evidence that high heels hijack the male brain, changing our behavior and forcing us to be more helpful around women. Isn't this ironic, though? High heels are a symbol of oppressive patriarchy, but women are using them to hijack our brains. How can they be considered oppressive when they are clearly in favor of women? That is why women amass an entire collection of high heels and similar shoes, because they are aware of their power over men. Wearing heels also makes bouncers more likely to let women in because it makes women appear vulnerable outside of the club. The same is true for women in short dresses in cold weather. Bouncers simply look at them and let them in out of pity because the women appear vulnerable. Women use it because no rational woman would go out in the cold wearing that unless it was in her best interests. Similarly, the men are more likely to let them in and buy them a drink to warm them up. All she has to do is say she's cold or something, and 80 of the men in the room will rush up to her and offer her their coats and a drink. She'll play on his sympathy once she's in there. Personally, I began going to the gym fairly early on and was always there staring at the girls, but I was full. There were all kinds of girls there back then, and maybe some were riding the carousel, but the majority were naive and young. For me, the club lost its charm because the girls were always expecting you to buy their drinks, and if you didn't, the older guys would, and you'd be spending time alone. There was no point in trying to play that game because the women didn't care about you at that age, and unless you're very lucky in the looks department, you're basically invisible in the club. When women start seeing men as people who can get free drinks and food, the club changes. It transitions from a place of enjoyment to a transactional service, with the same rules as outside the club. The woman begins to gravitate toward the top 1% of men, and those with money can buy her as many drinks as she wants. In this environment, all women want is to exploit you as a woman's ticket to a good time on her way home. You'd have women arriving at 2 and puking everywhere, and the cab drivers are terrified of picking up these drunk women. Cab drivers are poor men trying to make a living. The weekend is when they can afford to make the most money, but they avoid all these women because they don't want someone puking in their back seat. Everyone except the woman associated with the nightclub appears to be getting the short end of the stick, while she rides on everyone's favors and sympathy like a princess. Bouncers are another issue for guys in the club. Many women form friendships with bouncers and use them as their white knights. Some even date them in order to gain free access to the club. Women going in there manipulate bouncers to get in faster. They have their own set of tricks. Women pool their social resources as a group in order to gain access to high-profile positions. After they've finished exploiting the bouncers, they go in and exploit the men. So they basically get everything for free, including entrance, access, drinks, and attention. If that isn't enough reason for you to avoid clubbing, I don't know what is. Instead, approach and converse with women in situations where you have power and benefit. It's pointless to test your abilities in a field dominated by women, where you have everything to lose and only a very small chance of being rewarded. What's sad is that most men here who go to clubs only drink 1 or 2 drinks, or they have a few drinks at home because it's probably cheaper and they have to spend all their money on the woman who wants drinks. The only time you should buy a woman a drink is if you approach her and want to strike up a conversation. If she comes up to you and asks for a drink, there's a 99% chance she's just looking for a freebie from you. She'll drink it and then leave. They say that all men think about is physical contact. They want intimate relations. But when we buy them a drink, She forgets to mention that she uses the same social cues to buy drinks. She's going to sweet-talk him, put her hand on his shoulder. The guy thinks that she is interested in him. She finishes her drink and leaves him hanging. If he complains, she makes him out to be the bad guy. Clubs can be a lot of fun if you're still young, but you shouldn't go there looking for a girlfriend. Do you think this is the type of woman you should date if she goes to clubs and gets free drinks and favors from bouncers? Don't you think they'll take advantage of you if you do that? Many of my friends used to date girls they met in clubs, and those were their worst relationships. If you want to get famous and make money with girls, don't even consider becoming a club promoter or running your own club. It's not worth it. Most club promoters will lose all of their money. Clubs are not like casinos, where the house always wins. Instead, women are always the winners in clubs. Don't forget to hit the like button to help spread the word about this video. Thank you for taking your daily dose of red pills, and remember that a red pill a day keeps bad poker hands away. So have a good rest of your day and cheers.